Welcome to Southwest Desert, where adventure meets the arid beauty of the American Southwest. Join me as we explore Southwest's lost historical characters, stunning desert vistas, forgotten Native American history, or tales of lost gold mines. There's always something new to discover. Subscribe now and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out on our latest desert adventures. Let's journey together into the heart of the Southwest Desert. Sit back and enjoy. Welcome to Southwest Desert. Today we explore one of the most fascinating and little-known stories of the American West, the final surrender of the legendary Apache leader Geronimo, told through the eyes of Lieutenant Charles B. Gatewood, the man who made it happen. The year was 1886, and the Southwest was exhausted from years of conflict. In the scorching heat of an Arizona summer, General Nelson Miles had a problem on his hands. Geronimo and his band of Chiricahua Apache warriors had been evading capture for months, slipping between American and Mexican territory like ghosts in the desert wind. Miles needed a solution, and he found it in an unlikely figure, a sickly, modest lieutenant named Charles Gatewood. Drawing from Gatewood's own unpublished account, we can piece together the remarkable story of how this humble officer accomplished what entire armies could not. The manuscript itself reveals Gatewood as a man whose character shines through his words, steadfast and honorable, yet modest and self-deprecating, with a good sense of humor that must have served him well during his dangerous mission. Most notably, his writing shows an uncommon respect for the Native Americans. Miles's strategy was born from careful preparation. He had conducted extensive interviews with friendly Chiricahuas at Fort Apache, Arizona Territory, seeking to understand the best approach to bring in the remaining hostile band. From these conversations, he selected two trusted messengers, Katia, also known as Kaida, and Martin, or Martine. The message they would carry was carefully crafted: surrender and accept removal to Florida, with final terms to be determined by the President of the United States himself. Thank you for joining your desert frontiersman Alan for another Southwest adventure. If you would like to help support my time and channel, hit the Super Thanks heart icon on the bottom of the video and contribute. This is very helpful. Relax and enjoy. Gatewood's mission came with both written authority and verbal instructions that revealed the complex nature of his task. On paper, his authority was impressive. He could call on any U.S. troop commander for support, with only one exception: small columns operating in Mexico. His verbal instructions, however, focused on survival, requiring a minimum escort of 25 soldiers to prevent him from being taken hostage. But Gatewood, showing the practical wisdom that would define his mission, chose to ignore this requirement when organizing his party at Fort Bowie. His core team was small but carefully chosen. The two Native American messengers who knew Geronimo's band personally, George Ratton as interpreter, Frank Houston as packer, 3 pack mules for supplies, and Gatewood himself. They would later add a courier known only as Old Tex to their ranks. The journey into Mexico began with an ironic encounter at the border. Gatewood's first attempt to obtain his required 25 mounted men was denied by none other than his former West Point instructor, a coincidence that might have seemed like a bad omen but would prove fortunate. Instead, they found support from Captain J. Parker's command, which included a cavalry troop and infantry detachments under Lieutenants Richardson and Bullard, totaling 30 to 40 men. Later, they would connect with Captain Lawton's command at the Aros River in the Sierra Madre Mountains, approximately 250 miles south of the boundary. The situation they found at Fronteras revealed the complicated political landscape they were operating in. Intelligence suggested Geronimo's party was nearby, negotiating with Mexican authorities. Lieutenant W.E. Wilder had already had conversations with Apache women, but what seemed like progress masked a sinister plot. The Mexican prefect had secretly assembled 200 soldiers, bringing them in under cover of darkness in small detachments. Their plan was simple and brutal: get the Apaches drunk and massacre them. Only the American presence prevented this scheme from playing out. The tension ratcheted up when several Apache women visited Fronteras. They departed eastward with 3 extra ponies, food supplies, and mezcal, an intoxicating drink that would play a role in later negotiations. Gatewood's group began a careful pursuit, moving 6 miles south before turning eastward into the mountains at dark. They used a white flag during their approach, making a slow and cautious march that would last for days. The pursuit required all their tracking skills. They found the squaw's trail early one morning and followed it for 3 days before joining the main body's trail, finally locating the hostile group in the Torres Mountains. Their first camp was strategically placed at a bend in the Bavispe River, hidden in a canebrake with security measures that showed Apache military expertise. A picket on the peak, Apaches scouting ahead, and multiple hiding places in the canebrake. The first meeting between Gatewood and Geronimo stands as one of the most remarkable encounters in frontier history. 24 armed Apache men were present, along with 14 women and children. The location had been carefully chosen, offering everything needed for both comfort and quick escape: wood, water, grass, and shade. The protocol for this meeting revealed the deep mistrust on both sides. Smoke signals and specific shot patterns were used to indicate safety. While the Apache warriors arrived gradually in small groups, their horses turned out to graze, a sign of peaceful intentions, but also ensuring quick access if needed. Both sides contributed to building trust through shared provisions. Gatewood's group offered 15 pounds of tobacco, cigarette papers, matches, and several days' worth of rations. The Apaches reciprocated with jerked horse meat, creating a temporary bond through shared sustenance. The actual meeting began with a scene that perfectly captured the delicate balance of trust and caution. Gatewood, sitting on Geronimo's brother-in-law's saddle, had placed his Winchester rifle 20 feet away, close enough to reach in an emergency, far enough to show trust. Geronimo's approach was equally calculated. He shook Gatewood's hand and, in a moment of surprising intimacy, commented on the lieutenant's poor health before sitting extremely close to him, a gesture that could be interpreted as either friendly or intimidating. The negotiations that followed revealed the complexities of the situation. Geronimo, having just finished a 3-day mezcal drinking session, requested whiskey while discussing the terms. His counter-proposals showed both practical concerns and deep grievances. He wanted to return to the reservation, retain their previous farms, receive standard rations and clothing, farming implements, and immunity from punishment. He spoke at length about Indian agent frauds, thefts, and the general injustices his people had suffered at the hands of white settlers. What followed was a fascinating exercise in character assessment that showed Geronimo's diplomatic sophistication. The Apache leader conducted a thorough investigation of General Miles's character, asking about every possible detail: his age, size, hair color, eye color, voice quality, speaking style, and even his habits of eye contact. He wanted to know about Miles's friends, his credibility, his relationship with his soldiers, his experience with Indians, and most importantly, his history of keeping promises. This wasn't just idle curiosity. It was a leader doing due diligence before making a decision that would affect his entire people. The Apache warriors held 2 crucial private conferences in the canebrake. The first lasted about an hour and was followed by a shared meal. The second came after they learned the shocking news that their people had already been removed to Florida, including Natchez' family. This information, more than any military pressure or diplomatic argument, seemed to sway the Apache leaders. The agreement that followed was careful and specific. They would meet Miles in the United States, retain their arms until formal surrender, and have freedom between camps. Gatewood would march with them, a requirement that showed both trust in the lieutenant and a desire for insurance against treachery. The group that would travel together included all 24 men and the 14 women and children. The journey to surrender was marked by both tension and unexpected moments of connection. A chance encounter with 200 Mexican infantry nearly sparked disaster, causing an initial stampede and requiring delicate diplomatic handling. The meeting with the Mexican prefect was particularly tense, with equal escorts of 7 men each and a complicated situation regarding weapons. Geronimo firmly rejected any Mexican involvement in his surrender, showing his clear preference for American terms. Food shortages added an unexpected touch of levity to the journey when the pack train was lost, with the Apache warriors finding amusement in their shared predicament. A more serious tension arose at Guadalupe Canyon, the site of previous killings, where a troop commander's desire to fight nearly sparked conflict with Indians prepared to flee. Alternative plans emerged during this period. Some young officers proposed killing Geronimo during the talks, a suggestion that, if acted upon, would have forever tainted the honor of the U.S. military. Meanwhile, Geronimo and Natchez suggested hiding near Fort Bowie while Gatewood communicated with Miles to arrange an immediate surrender. Neither plan was adopted, and the group proceeded to Skeleton Canyon for the final meeting with Miles. The actual surrender was remarkably straightforward compared to the complex journey that led to it. Miles presented the terms briefly: relocation to Florida, with final disposition to be determined by the president. Geronimo, perhaps exhausted by the long journey or convinced by the removal of his people, accepted immediately and began following Miles closely. Natchez's situation added a final human element to the story. Mourning for a missing brother, he delayed briefly in the hills with 12 to 15 men and their families. His eventual decision to bring in his entire band was influenced by cultural arguments that appealed to his sense of tribal unity. The final journey to Fort Bowie covered 60 miles, with the chiefs riding ahead with Miles while the rest of the band took 3 days to make the trip. The ultimate resolution saw the group initially transferred to Florida, delayed in Texas, and finally relocated to Alabama, a place whose name, ironically, means "here we rest" in the Creek language. Gatewood's account, hastily corrected and casual in style, gives us a unique window into this pivotal moment in American history. Through his eyes, we see not just the surrender of a feared warrior, but a complex negotiation between cultures, a demonstration of personal trust, overcoming institutional hatred, and a moment when patience and understanding accomplished what force could not. This is a story that challenges our preconceptions about the American West. It's not a tale of dramatic shootouts or cavalry charges, but of careful diplomacy, cultural understanding, and the power of personal integrity. In Gatewood's account, we find a more nuanced view of both sides. Geronimo as not just a warrior but a leader carefully weighing his people's future, and the American military represented not by force alone, but by a sickly lieutenant who earned trust through respect and honesty. For Southwest Desert, this has been the story of Geronimo's surrender, a reminder that history's most significant moments often hinge not on grand battles, but on quiet conversations between individuals who find common ground in the most unlikely places. In the end, it was Gatewood's respect for the Apache people, combined with Geronimo's careful assessment of the situation, that brought about a peaceful resolution to one of the longest-running conflicts in the American Southwest. Please check out my large catalog of Southwest videos and playlists. Happy trails. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more great content. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. See you in the next video.